Robert Gregory is CEO of the Australian Jewish Association. Robert, thank you for joining us. Troubling times, isn't it? And we need to just calm down, don't we? And respect our fellow neighbours and our fellow Australians.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. That's 100% correct. I think the public wants to live together. Social cohesion is important. It's something we need to work towards. And I'll add what Senator Roberts said about police need to enforce the law. The government needs to enforce the law. I don't think we need hysteria. I don't think we need to rush to make new laws, but we do need to enforce some of the existing laws and make sure we can all get along together.
Yeah, I just, when we, October 7, I just leave my opinion out of that, but we had here, because we are, with TNT, we were a bastion of free speech, so we had both sides, and we let it go. We let both sides have their say, and it went on for months and months. And the noticeable fact from that, with these very good people, was the level of insults and disparaging remarks they made about each other. And to me, it showed that I understand there's a level of passion, but I think once you remove the respect part of it, I think we are, especially if you're 12,000 kilometres away or something, we need to look at things in perspective. And I think I mean, personally, I don't agree with what's happening in Gaza. However, I don't hold anybody responsible for it in Australia. And, we've always worked, my wife has always worked with the Jewish community, and just absolutely brilliant people, just like any Australian. Whether you are a Muslim, whether you are Jewish, whether you're a Christian or whatever, Buddhist, if you're a good person, you're a good person. So the idea of bombing places of worship and bombing restaurants with people in it, it's, or setting fire to it, it's a terrible place we're at. How do we get back the respect from fellow Australians, take out the religious side of things? Because we are all Australians. And a friend of mine once said that even with God, was almost like we're in different department stores, and he's up top, we've got different ones below. We all need to understand that, we all believe in God, and that we should also practice what we are taught and have that respect for the other fellow Australians.
Well, the Australian Jewish community started with the First Fleet, and I'll add it wasn't with the soldiers on board. So it's been around a long time, and we've never experienced anything like this. It's unprecedented, the wave of attacks that have been going. But it's also unprecedented because when conflicts break out around the world, they don't often play out on the streets of Australia. So there's a major conflict going on between Russia and Ukraine, and you don't see Russians in Australia or Ukrainians in Australia bombing each other's places of worship or restaurants. It's quite unique to this conflict. And I'll say it is also only one-sided. I had a meeting with counter-terror police a little after October 7, and they were dealing with a lot of threats towards the Jewish community. And I asked them, are there any threats coming the other way? Are you monitoring any Jewish people that you're worried about, doing things towards the other side? And they said there were none. So it is quite unique, and it's very worrying what we're seeing in Australia. And to focus on just, for example, the incidents we saw over the weekend in Melbourne. So one of them was an attack on a synagogue where a real tragedy was very narrowly averted. The attacker had rung the doorbell of the synagogue, wanting to be let in. In this case, the security features worked. I know your previous guest, Shane, was saying, where did all the money for security features go? Well, in this case, the intercom system, the camera system, which allowed excellent footage of this person, which has allowed the alleged person to be arrested. And the door, even though it was set on fire with some sort of petrol bomb or something like this, it didn't burn down, so the security protection worked. But there were 20 people, including children, inside having a meal. So there was a real tragedy averted there. And the other attack on the restaurant, But that wasn't even really the Jewish community targeted. I mean, I don't think many of the diners were Jewish. It was an Israeli restaurant. And that'd be like if you were sitting down at a Thai restaurant or a Greek restaurant and someone disagreed with their government and attacked the restaurant, and you're just a diner wanting to enjoy the food. So, I mean, attacking an Israeli restaurant or a synagogue in Australia has nothing to do with the conflict overseas.
And I totally agree with you. What about the perpetrators? Have they been caught?
So there's one person who's been arrested, allegedly the perpetrator of the attack on the synagogue. So he's before the courts. And in terms of the incident at the restaurant, it was quite disappointing on the night. Police were present. They didn't arrest anyone from the mob of dozens of people that attacked the diners. But afterwards, over the last couple of days, they have been arresting. I think they've arrested about 3 people over charges of assault and damage and different things like that.
Yeah, I just find this whole thing. It's and again, what I think what's happening over in the Middle East at the moment is, it's not. It shouldn't. You don't kill You just do not kill innocent people. I don't care what side you're on. You just don't do it. However, we're all Australians, and I don't see you doing any harm. I don't see, Muslims or Iranians here doing any harm. I see actually more harm from Christians, if you want to look at history. So we need to somehow find that respect. To deter this, do you think we either need harsher penalties, or do you think we need greater communication, bringing in the community together, and to help alleviate this, and it's almost hatred, but this lack of respect and wanting to hurt fellow Australians? Do we make the law stronger, or do we start to work through those barriers and make the community appreciate each other?
Well, I don't think we need harsher laws. I think harsher laws exist already. I actually think Tony Abbott was misunderstood when he was referring to what happened during COVID. I think what happened during COVID was a disgrace. The way protesters were treated was horrific. And I think he was making the point that if police did that back then, and now all of a sudden, like, why don't they do anything? When you have actual violent protesters, which there weren't back then, there were pregnant women and old people, but now you have some quite aggressive protesters that if they could do it then, how come they can't do it now? I think that was sort of the point. So I think police should be more proactive in policing these things, but mixed at the same time with more community coming together, building tolerance. There's quite close ties between the Jewish and the Christian communities, which is growing as they both face similar threats. So I think that should be expanded to more communities.
Yeah, I totally agree. We are all Australians, and I think, what my religion is and what your religion is it's our business and God's business. But again, I do understand the level of passion from both sides, but we do need to come to grips with what's happening and somehow work out a way through this, because otherwise we're going to have there will be attacks not only on the Jewish, there'll be attacks from both sides. Do you expect more attacks, more targeting of the Jewish community, say in Melbourne, for example?
Well, I think the statistics show there's been a big rise in attacks. We would hope they would drop off. They haven't yet, and we're quite some time since October 7th. So I think, unfortunately, they probably will continue. I don't think they'll be from both sides. I mean, I know the Jewish community quite well. I can't imagine, Jewish people doing things like that. I don't think any mosques in Australia have been burnt down or things like that. But I think, hopefully, I'm hopeful that we can try and reduce some of the tensions in the streets, reduce some of the hatred, and bring everyone together, because, as you said, we are all Australian. This is our country.
We are. Just tell me this, just moving across to the Middle East, I think it's going to be very, very hard to have peace from both sides because of the hatred is so immense. Do you see a chance for peace in the Middle East, and how sincere would that be, do you think?
Well, I think there's been many good examples that should be followed. The Abraham Accords, which President Trump introduced in his first term, brought peace between Israel and several Arab countries that had previously been quite opposed to each other. So I think with that model, it can be replicated. There could be peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia soon. They're even talking about potentially peace between Israel and Syria. I think when it comes to Gaza, the level of hatred and indoctrination that's come from a young age, it's going to be very hard to change that. I mean, Hamas is a terrorist organization, and that's been the government now for decades. So it's all the people they have known. It'll be similar to, after World War II, you had a whole population in Germany that had been brainwashed, that had gone through the Hitler Youth, that were committed Nazis. And it really took a long occupation and re-education system. And now Germany is a contributing member of the world. And it was a similar story in Japan as well, where a very indoctrinated population, very extreme ideas. And Japan now is one of Australia's closest allies and works together. So it is possible, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I think it's near impossible at the moment. First thing, you don't achieve peace through force. So I think at the moment what we need to do in the Middle East is to stop killing each other. That would be a great start. And then you got a chance of trying to get to that peaceful solution. But when you have missiles flying over from both sides, whether it's Iran, whether it's from Hamas, whether it's from Israel, you've got to trust your neighbours first before you can actually have peace. Would hate to be a President Trump in this situation. By the way, he wants peace, yet on the other hand, he sort of acts in other ways contrary to peaceful solutions. And who knows what's going to happen. But the level of hatred is just terrible. Just quickly, if somebody wants to find out more about what you do, Robert, how do they do that?
So the Australian Jewish Association, it's the largest Jewish group in Australia on social media. So check us out on Facebook, X, Instagram, anywhere. We do have a website, jewishassociation.org.au. But just have a look for us on social media and you'll find us.
Thank you very much. Robert Gregory, CEO and President of the Australian Jewish Association. This is The Pulse.
If you miss